Hey guys, Problem 1701, and today we're going to talk about Babylon 5, the pros and cons of Babylon 5, and how it holds up in the year 2020, the good and the bad. I'm a huge fan of Babylon 5. It's a great TV show from the 90s, and we're going to start off with the good of it, and you got to start with story. The story's fantastic. Babylon's 5 story is my favorite sci-fi story of all time. I think it's the best done. I'm a huge fan of Doctor Who. I'm a huge fan of Star Trek. I'm a huge fan of Star Wars. I like all the sci-fi stuff, but Babylon 5 is easily my favorite story-wise. And I think it's because the guy who wrote it conceived pretty much how the whole thing was supposed to go, in a broad view from the beginning. So he knew exactly where the series needed to go, as it deals with kind of two major arcs and a lot of minor arcs. But he did a really good job seeding stuff early on. Like, there's a lot of stuff in the first two seasons that don't make sense until like the third season. And so it's one of those shows you really have to watch twice. And when you're watching the early seasons, you'll be like, oh, I see what they're alluding to there. I see what they're foreshadowing there. I see what they're talking about. It really is a show with a great rewatchability. I actually try to rewatch it every 2 or 3 years myself. Although some of my DVDs have gotten scratched over the years. I need to buy a new set that just has the whole series in it. More on that later. Another thing I like is the characters. There's a lot of character development here. It has a strong amount of character development. Arguably the best in sci-fi. Other shows do it really well too. Like, I think Deep Space Nine does it really well. I think the newer Battlestar Galactica does it really well. I've been told The Expanse does. I haven't seen that. I need to watch that. Everybody says I'd like it. But Babylon 5 has great character development. You have characters that start here, that end up here, and you would have never thought that those characters would end up where they are, some for better, some for worse. And a lot of that is also due to great casting. This show has some magnificent casting. You have Andreas Katsulas as Jakar, and he embodies that role so well. I really, really like him as an actor. Peter Jurassic as Londo Mollari, the way he embodies that role so well. Michael O'Hare as Commander Sinclair. Bruce Boxleitner as Captain Sheridan. There's only a couple of them. Their acting's a little wooden, like Claudia Christensen's acting. And to me, is a little wooden, but I can forgive it. And then Jeffrey Doyle, seems like it took him maybe a season or so to really get used to the role of Garibaldi. Sometimes he's spot on, sometimes he was a little off, but I'd say by season 3 he's nailing it perfectly. But the characters and the casting are done really well. Now, I really like that the fact, not just the characters, but the races all seem fully fleshed out. It seems like a very well-made universe. A lot of universe building here, and it's done really well. You see all these different races, and you find out their different religions, their different cultures. You really learn about them and what makes them tick as races and as individuals. I love learning about the Vorlons because I'm fascinated by Kosh. I absolutely love the mysterious Vorlon ambassador Kosh, who walks around in his encounter suit. The sets are done really well. They're very 90s, but I think it's really good set design. I like how the different sectors that look similar are marked by a color scheme, so you kind of always know where the action's taking place. There's red sector, green sector, blue sector. So you kind of always know where you are in a scene, and I like that. That's done really well. The music is done really well. It has a very 90s intro, but I love the themes to it. I love the way the ships work, not the designs. We'll get to the CG later, but the actual design of like their ships, like their Furies, the way they use air to turn and spin and go in all these different directions is really well done. The way the station's designed to simulate gravity with the turning units is really well done. All those are all strong positives that make this a really fun show to watch. A lot of good characters, a lot of good actors, a lot of good story. Now, let's talk about some of the bad of Babylon 5. The bad of Babylon 5 is simply the fact, in some ways, it's aged badly. Because it is, over 25 years old, closing in on 30 years old. Alright, let's get the CG out of the way. Babylon 5 was the first sci-fi show to do all of its spaceship effects in CG. Not using model props, using CG. And for its time, the CG is really impressive. When the show first aired, it was really neat to see that because there's a lot of camera angles and stuff you could do with it that you couldn't really do with models. So for its time, the CG was good. However, as we know, CG can age really badly, especially when you're pioneering CG at that point. And the CG does look very dated today by today's standards, easily. You know, it definitely gets outshone by things like Battlestar Galactica or The Expanse, stuff like that. So the CG has aged badly, and they can't fix it because another problem with Babylon 5 is they can't really put it on Blu-ray. It's on DVD, and they had to make sacrifices just to get it on DVD, like the CG shots and the composite shots, which involve CG and live action put together, I believe had to be cropped down. So they had to cut out a little bit of the picture on those, and on the composite shots, the live action scenes always look a little not up to standard when it comes to how they look, in my opinion. And a lot of that's because when they rendered these things, they sent like the master renders or whatever off to Warner Brothers because they were trying to future-proof the series. Warner Brothers, in their infinite wisdom, lost them. So all of the CG is done in standard definition. The live action shots could be upgraded to Blu-ray, but the CG shots and the composite shots cannot. They would just look a blurry mess. So all of those shots would have to be completely redone, and that's definitely not cost effective to do. And with Star Trek The Next Generation's Blu-ray performing below expectations, I don't think anybody's going to take chances with that, because Next Generation's Blu-ray cost about $12 million to do, I think, all 7 seasons, and the sales just weren't there because the price tags were so high on them when they first came out. So I don't see Babylon 5. I don't think they would spend the money to redo the CG scenes and then remaster the show for Blu-ray. I don't think, especially because since I doubt it would sell as well as Next Generation anyway. But yeah, the CG is a big issue, and then the fact that it's limited to DVD. It's you can't get it on Blu-ray, so you have to deal with these large DVD box sets. You can't trim it down, get more episodes on a like you can with a Blu-ray, so you'd have a smaller set. So you basically can't watch it in high definition. That's one of the problems with it, is that you're stuck basically watching it on DVD, and that the CG effects are dated. Some of the camera shots, you know, the way it's filmed is a little, I guess, outdated by today's standards. You know, they used older camera techniques, which for me work, but that might bother some people. I know my best friend's wife doesn't like older shows because the way they filmed them with camera angles. But yeah, that's a huge detriment there. But for me, most of it is just the show being outdated. That's really the only cons to it. And season 5 is not quite as good as the first 4 seasons, because the stuff that happens in season 4 was originally supposed to be for seasons 4 and 5, but the station that it was on was ending, and they didn't know if they were going to get a season 5, so they kind of had to cram those 2 seasons into one season. So the first major arc kind of gets wrapped up early in like the first 5 or 6 episodes, and then the rest of the season takes place with the other major arc being resolved. And then season 5 is kind of about setting things up to where you know it has to end, because there are certain characters we know end up in certain places, and this is kind of setting up how they get there. And I personally enjoy season 5. I think it's great. It's probably my least favorite of the 5 seasons, but it's still a good season, and I think it's necessary. It's kind of like the ending of Lord of the Rings, where it's drawn out, or the end of David Tennant's run as the Doctor, where it's kind of drawn out at the end. This is kind of like a season of that, just kind of everything getting set up to where it needs to be after the main conflicts of the series have been resolved at the end of season 4. So yeah, I think Babylon 5 is a great show. I think the pros outweigh the cons, and I think it's still has a lot of important messages that are relevant today. Also, it has a lot of really good guest stars. I forgot to mention that. You have a lot of really good guest stars who show up. A lot of them Star Trek alumni. Gene Roddenberry's wife shows up in an episode. You'll see a lot of Star Trek alumni on there, people who've been in different series. What is his name? David. My mind went blank. Another actor I like, who's been in Doctor Who and Star Trek, played Chancellor Gorka. David Warner. David Warner's in a really good episode. So you'll see a lot of guest stars you may recognize if you're a big sci-fi fan there as well. So, anyway, that's Babylon 5. It's a fantastic show. I think it holds up really well. In 2020, if you're a younger person in 2020 and you're debating about it, if you can get past the bad CGI, or well, I won't even say bad, just outdated by today's standards CGI, I think you'll find a sci-fi show that's really good, really fantastic, and that you'll really enjoy. So I'm Prowl1701. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. Don't forget to click the like button. Don't forget to click that bell for notifications. Check out my other channel, my main channel, Prowl1701, Prowl 1701, where I review pretty much everything Star Wars, especially lightsaber replicas. And I'm always looking for more people over there. I've got over 1,000 subscribers on that channel now. And most importantly, as always, thank you for watching.